The following is a production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. Kick off your work boots and pull up a boulder. It's time for Man Cave, discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. Grab your favorite beverage, pick out a comfy spot around the campfire, and enjoy today's conversation with our two favorite cavemen, Pat King and Brian Howe.
I, unfortunately, in my journey back home to the church, I actually went up to communion. It had been 25 years or so since I had been at communion or confession or practicing anything. But I know that in those non-denominational church services I was going to, where they did their communion services, this ain't real. That's all, because I truly believed at the time, even as a youth, that was Jesus's body and blood that was transformed up there, and to become the body and blood, soul and divinity of Jesus Christ. And so, even as a non-practicing Catholic, what I saw them doing in those non-denominational services, I knew that what they were performing wasn't anything. Mm-hmm. It was symbolic, because they had nothing that made it even real to them. They never even talked about it as real. It was just it was just part of their quarterly service obligation to do this quarterly, and that was it. And it was so nonchalant and so disingenuous to me that I knew that, of course, I'm still married, got young kids, and I'm going, I got to go back home. I kept thinking there's something wrong. I didn't really think about going back to the church at that time, but I knew that what they were doing wasn't real, and it was a waste of time, if you ask me.
Yep.
And so when I did return back to the faith, I went right up the first time I was in church, went to Mass, went up, received communion, and yes, I was unworthy, but I was unworthily able to receive, because it started the healing process to become worthy. Now, I'm not advocating, yes, if you want to return to the church and you know that you got to go back to, I'd forgotten. It'd been 26 years since I'd been to Mass. So I'd kind of forgotten all the rubrics and all the do's and don'ts. But gosh, receiving the Eucharist and knowing by the time I got back to my pew, it was such a gift. It was like, wow, I'm home.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I needed. And so I've never gone anywhere else since. And I've never missed Mass since, except for during COVID when no churches were open. And boy, I didn't like the virtual Masses. I mean, I participated, but it surely wasn't the same.
You know, Pat, you said, what did I do for all those years? For a long, long time, Fenway Park was my cathedral. I would go there whenever I could. I watched every Red Sox game I could watch it on replay. That was my religion for a lot of years, until I came back to the church. And then there was no place that I would rather be than sitting in the pews at a church.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of people that view it the same way you do, though. A lot of lost souls out there that would rather go to a Red Sox game or a Yankees game or a Dodgers game than go anywhere to Mass. But today, I will do. I mean, okay, if I had a Sunday game to attend, the local BSU football team, it was on Sunday for some reason, which would never happen. But if it was, I go to Mass on Saturday night. But that'd be the only time. But I'm at Mass. I go to Mass an hour early. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, because I lead a rosary. So every Sunday, I lead a rosary before Mass. And I get there early enough so I could sit in the chapel, little chapel, sit before Jesus, open my missal, study read the commentaries about the readings and the theme of the Mass and the readings of the Mass, and I just sit and think about it. And I'm going, I really appreciate that time. And I keep telling myself, it's not enough time. I need to get there earlier. So
How big is your church?
population wise,
Yeah,
I think overall there's about 2,800 families.
that's a
Maybe
good
30
sized church.
maybe 33,000 families. But yeah, we're probably a 60-40, 65-35 split of Anglo and Hispanic. There's three Hispanic masses, and they're usually very full. The Anglos aren't, the English speaking masses on Saturday and Sunday are about probably 2/3, maybe 3/4 full, which is sad. But I mean, it's just we're a rural parish, so we don't have a dense population. You go into town and it's almost all English speaking and less Hispanic. So we got a lot of farmland labor farmers. We're spread out. We pull from 3 or 4 different small cities, five different small cities that used to have maybe had parishes at one time, but they shut down because of priest shortage and cost to maintain those buildings. We built a big church. I think the church itself at capacity is 1,100 seating. So
that's kind of like what we have around this area.
Yeah.
It's not like San Antonio. I guess San Antonio is just like amazing, how many people they have there. Yeah.
Or St. Peter's, that you can put 10, 12,000 people inside St. Peter's in Rome. So
yeah. Yeah. They're built for that.
They're built for that. Yeah. But no, I belong to a good active parish. Father Francis, who visited here this last month for Christmas, never seen snow and stuff like that. I took him all over the place. We had a lot of fun. He met a lot of people. People gave him so much stuff that he had to borrow another bag, a suitcase from me, carry on, because he had so many gifts from other people. And when he gets,
did he go back?
He's already back. Yeah, he flew back Monday, arrived yesterday morning about 11:40 Rome time, and so he will have to. They checked both bags in. They were really nice, and they didn't charge him for a second bag, and which was great because they were heavy and big and full of stuff. So I told him, I said, pack up a lot of the small stuff you don't need here, ship it to Ghana, and just, that way you don't have to travel with it when you go home. Because he'd like to come back here for the summer and spend a couple months. He wants to go out to work landscaping with me. So I might show him how to make put in sprinklers so that he can learn to do that back in Ghana, because they don't have sprinkler systems like we do, stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah. So I live out in the rural part of Idaho. I live way out in the country. I live near a dairy and have acres and acres. I mean, hundreds of thousands and thousands of acres of farmland. I mean, there's farmland everywhere around me, a dotted house here and there. And he didn't know. So what a pivot is, an irrigation pivot is, right?
I didn't until you would.
Okay. So it's a traveling. If you know what those little traveling tractor sprinklers are that crawl on their own as they sprinkle a lawn and they follow a hose as a track, well, a pivot is just a very tall, big wheels, frames, overhead. They travel over the top of the crops and they sprinkle water, and that's a pivot. It's attached to a fixed point and then just rotates, and then it'll stop and come back, and it's sprinkling water the whole time. And he didn't know what they were, and I explained them to him. He asked me if the government paid for those. I said no. I said, nope, that's a private farmer that said it's more valuable to get them and put it in and cut off labor costs and make it more efficient than going out and hand watering, moving hand lines or siphon tubes or wheel lines. This is an automatic system. Basically, a farmer pulls up, turns the pump on, turns the pivot on, sets how many times it makes its passes, and then the computer takes over and lets it do its thing, and he goes away, and cuts down labor costs, and it's more efficient and better at watering. So anyway, he was quite amazed that we had that, and then he told me how he got water. They would take a mule or donkey in a cart, and they would go a mile down to the river with these big jars, like basically like the miracle at Cana. They'd have these big water jars, and they'd hand fill them up, and then the donkey would pull the cart back, probably slopping water all the way up there, unless they had lids on them, and take it back to mix their own concrete for their own church they're building. So they had to haul their own water in.
Pat, in the opening, you had mentioned all the great works that the Knights of Columbus do. Hats off to your council for helping out Father Francis with some of the monies that he needs to get a church built down there. So
yeah, well, thank you. Yeah,
didn't your parish help out as well?
Well, they're gonna do a second collection in a week or two, and whatever they gather, they're gonna send. We'll send them. But yeah, we did a raffle, and part of the proceeds, we raised enough money. We help seminarians, we help Birthright, Idaho Birthright, and Stanton Healthcare, which is a pro-life clinic and afterbirth care program, and we help them out financially. So part of this fundraiser, the raffle, our Lenten fish fries that are coming up, our breakfast that we do, all the money, Knights, as you know, Knights don't get a dime. They don't pay themselves anything. They collect all this money just to give it away. And they find these good organizations, these good programs to help out with wheelchair, Coach for Kids, all this stuff. And so this is where the Knights help out a lot. And so when I met Father Francis in Rome in 2019, we became friends, and then we stayed in contact this whole time. And I saw a need. They have masses outside under trees and in schoolrooms, but they have no place to sit. So we gave them money at first to make benches, so they had a place to sit, whether they were outside or in class, and that helped fit enough benches for two different small parishes. They call them outstations, little village parishes. And so 15 went, they made 30, 15 went to one, 15 went to another. And now those two have gotten big enough to where they need to build a church. They just need a church now, a place to hold mass out of the weather, out of the rain, so the parishioners from both those parishes have been clearing the ground and did all the excavating. They've made the bricks by hand. They've done all the labor. So now they have a foundation. They've got the foundation walls up, and what they need now is concrete to pay for, to buy the money to pay for the concrete so they can pour the floor. And once they get the floor poured, then they've got 8,000 bricks that they've made waiting to be stacked and mortared and put up, because the reason why they're going all concrete, they don't have mountains of stone that they can go just cut out like they did in Italy to build churches, or they don't have, if they were to build anything out of the earth, it'd be clay and straw, and the amount of rains they have, they'd eventually just deteriorate and fall apart. So they want a church that'll stand the test of time, and so they're building their own church. And so we've helped them with, this will be about $6,000 we sent them, and that buys 10 of their local dollars. $1 US buys 10 local dollars. So that'll buy a lot of concrete, a lot of material, a lot of rebar. And so once they get the floor poured, then they'll start putting the bricks on the walls, and hopefully in about a year, maybe a year and a half or two, they'll have the whole church built to the point where they'll be ready to dedicate it. When that happens, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to go to Ghana and be part of their dedication. So,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah. So anyway, so let's get back. Let's get back
I just
to
want
you.
to thank you, because I just interviewed Father Francis, and I want to thank you for the introduction. It was a wonderful interview. I enjoyed it
Well, I
Speaking
kind of
of him.
had no choice. You kept bugging me. It
I
just
know.
wouldn't
That's the
leave
way
it
I
alone.
am. That's how I get things done, Pat.
Yeah, well, you're kind of a pain, but that's okay. We love you anyway.
Thank
So
you, brother.
so now you just meet this
Yep.
little short but hot. Was she sweet or
Oh God, yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So hot, sweet, short, Italian,
Beautiful.
a Sicilian,
Yep.
and you got your hands full.
Yep. So I
And
fell in love with her.
What? I mean, how long did it take you to convince her that you're the guy?
Actually, it didn't take her that long. I mean,
Oh, come on. Come on. I've
no,
got to know you. It had to have taken years and years.
no. I mean, we dated for a couple of years, but no. I mean, we kind of knew.
How long did you stay on that job?
It wasn't long after that I had left that one.
Okay.
My contract was up with that company, and she had left and was going to work for someone else.
Okay.
And so I
So
mean,
now you're a surveyor. Did you
Yep.
go to school
Now
for
I
that?
am. I went to school for architectural civil design, which is
Okay.
really crazy because, my whole life, all I've ever wanted to do is radio. And I had an opportunity to go to school, and Connecticut has the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, which is supposed to be a pretty prestigious school,
Yeah.
and I didn't go. I went to school for architectural civil design. So, and I did really well during the site and civil aspects of the classes. So I met up with a surveyor, and he says, Dave, you can be a surveyor how the heck did he say it? He says, you can be a draftsman all your life, or you can be a surveyor with drafting experience. So I'm like, okay. So 22 years later, I do qualify to get my license, take my licensing exam, but I just haven't gotten, I haven't done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
how long you're dating for what, a couple years, and how long take you to get married?
a couple of years we dated, and then we get married, and
Yeah.
then we started having kids, and
Okay. How many kids you got?
two, boy and a girl. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how old are they?
My daughter is 26. My son is 24.
Wow,
and
you're that old?
I am.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm 58. I'm
You're
58
how
years old. Yeah,
Wow.
58.
You're an old
And
guy.
what's really funny though is like when my son was young, I'd have to, we'd wrestle and I'd have to hold back. And now if we do that, I'm fighting for my life.
Well, no, with me, I just lay on them and I still win. So, okay, so you're married, have kids,
Mhm.
you're going to mass, you
Yep.
recommitted your life to Christ and to the church.
Yeah.
How long? Okay, so about how long into this did you join the Knights? When did you join the Knights?
Well, you remember I told you about that guy that was giving his
This is you can't do that. You got it. This is a whole new interview. You got to tell the people who your story.
No. Hang on. I'll take you there. All right.
All right.
You remember when I told you about that Lenten retreat that we were on?
Yeah.
And the guy told
earlier in the show. Yes, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he got up and he talked about the divine mercy and everything like that. His next question to me was, "Hey, are you a knight?" And I said, "No." And my wife said, "Oh, my grandfather was a knight." Well, that night I signed a Form 100, and that next weekend I had gone through my first degree, and then wasn't long after that I went for my second and third.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
As a matter of fact, this
is before you even. This happened before you even got married, right?
No.
Oh,
I was married.
Okay,
yeah,
this happened after you.
My conversion. I was trying to become a better man, but I knew that I was missing something early in my marriage.
Yeah.
And what it was I was missing God.
Yeah. Okay.
So then, I end up joining, I end up coming back to the church. Then, joined the Knights of Columbus. And I don't know. I've just done like a lot of different things since I've come back to the church, looking for what it is I truly wanted to do.
Did you ever teach like confirmation or anything like that? Any religious ed classes?
No, no. My big thing has been giving talks on and helping guys to develop talks, helping their, to tell their story.
Yeah.
But no, I've not been a teacher or anything like that. But I've some of my best friends have been, catechism teachers. And one of them actually has gone on to become a priest.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Father Larry Burrell.
Just so you know, this is along the way down the hall. No, down the hall along the way, Dave, with may I have a word?
No.
Okay. You got so much going on. Okay. So tell everybody how they can find you.
All right. My website is www.castingthe.net.
Castingthe.net.
Net.
And you actually spell out DOT dot or casting the period net. .net. Yep. Okay. All right.
It's kind of a play on words. Casting my podcast. .net. My podcast is Along the Way. The tagline is casual conversations with interesting people. I'm not the interesting person, but we've had a lot of great guests.
But your other moniker is Down the Hall Dave.
Down the Hall Dave is an homage to the guy that gave me, for 4 years, I lived in upstate New York. And I worked in a building where there was a radio station.
Okay.
And there was a guy there who was a morning DJ. And he and I hit it off. We'd have coffee every morning. And we would do, he had me doing character voices, kind of, be on the radio with him and stuff like that.
Right.
And he showed me a lot of stuff, which, I had always, as I said, I always wanted to do that, but I just never, ever, ever had the courage to do it. He did that. So Down the Hall Dave came from, he couldn't remember my last name. And he was sending somebody over to my office to get me. And he says, Down the Hall Dave, go get Down the Hall Dave. And it kind of stuck. So when I was on the radio with him, it was Down the Hall Dave. And I, just kind of pay that as a homage to my good friend.
That's a great way to get a nickname. I don't want to reveal some of the nicknames I've been given. So, but One-Eyed Bandit, it does come up from time to time, but, I can't see out of my right eye and don't see much out of my left eye either. So,
Mm-hmm. You have tunnel vision with the other one.
So you got married, you have kids, you're in the Knights, and have you been Grand Knight or anything? What have you played a role in the Knights?
Yeah, you know what? I was a Grand Knight for 3 months. It was just not my call. I just the guys were very, very nice. They had what they wanted to do, but they just that's not. I'm more of a big picture guy. I'm more the dreamer. Yeah. I mean, that's how my podcast came about. It's how May I Have a Word is it's kind of like just the big picture. I'm more of a creative type of a person than sending out this email to this priest or emailing to and settling these squabbles.
Yeah. Well, I get it because I would rather organize the fish fries and get all the food and do all the prep. When I do our fish fries, I make all the sauces. I make my own. I make my own cocktail sauce, my own fish taco sauce. I make coleslaw dressing. I do all that prep work, and then I organize all the food, get it ordered, get it brought in. Portion. We feed about 200 to 300 people on a Friday night of Lent.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And so I help run all that. I come in early, I get everybody organized. That I can do. That is simple. I like cooking. I like doing that part. But standing up and hitting the gavel and asking for reports and doing all this stuff, I have a full-time job as a landscaper and then doing all those side things I do, because if I was Grand Night, I'd still be doing the letting fish fries, because right now there's no one that else does it. No one else steps up and wants to, so I do it. So, that's fine.
That's why I really like the position that Dave Imhoff had recommended me. The same one as you, the core, now
I'm a team. So who's the directors? Dave, and you're the team.
Dave Imhoff is the director. I'm the co-director, and we also have Bob Mangello, who's another co-director.
That's the role. And for the state, we cover the whole state of Idaho, which is a big state. We don't have a small diocese that you can travel to within the day. It's a whole day to get to 2 or 3 different parts of our diocese, and then you got to stay overnight, and then it's a whole day back. So it's a planned event, and so it'd take a lot of time. So
wow.
But so Dave, anything else you want to add? If there's your journey. So the Rosary is still very big for you, right? I'm still a big important part of your life.
It is. I'm a big proponent of the Rosary. It has the ability to change lives. It, most people think that it's a weapon, but it's also it's an instrument of peace.
Yeah.
And that's for me, I needed that. I needed to know that, there was love there, and the Rosary has really helped me understand that I am one of God's children and that I am loved.
Right. I'm sorry. I should have turned off my text message and notification on my computer. I didn't know I had it synced to where it worked all the time the same way. So those are what's coming up. I'm getting text on the computer. So we'll just leave it. It happens.
I don't see them. So
I know you don't see them, but don't you hear the ding?
Oh yeah. It happens.
Well, I've been selling, my pork's ready to start selling. So people are calling me and placing their orders and stuff, or texting me. So I've got 10 hogs that are getting ready to go in for butchering.
You don't do the butchering, do you?
What?
Do you do the butchering?
No.
Do you do the butchering?
No. I need a meat processing plant. I sell the meat. I raise the hogs and I sell it by the half or the whole. So they either buy a half or they buy a whole. I don't part it out. I don't. I just So I just deal with the stinky part, the raising of it.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I have a guy that does all the butchering, cutting and wrapping, seasoning, smoking, curing, all that stuff. So he's all set up for it. That's what they do. So you pay him for that part of it, but I raise the meat. So
good deal.
Anyway, so I met you. We had a good time. We enjoyed our conversations. We have a very similar. I didn't learn to do all this. How I got started in radio was I was very bitter and angry about politics for a period of time shortly after my son had passed, and so I put all my energy into working or being mad at politics. And I used to call into a radio show all the time, and then he started inviting me to come to the studio to talk on air for answer questions to other people's questions on the talk. It was a talk radio show, conservative one, and so I got familiar with being on a mic and a live radio program, answering questions, listening to headphones and all that stuff, and that's kind of how I got into radio itself, just by happenstance. And then when my conversion was made, when I came about my conversion, and I was really just fired up to do stuff, and I knew all the things that hurt me or prevented me from deepening my faith or led me away, was that there wasn't enough men enough to stand in the breach and say, knock it off, grow up, be a man, shut up, whatever it takes. There just wasn't men that stood for their faith, that caused me to not leave. Leaving's easy, coming back's harder. because you have to admit that everything you were doing prior to was wrong. Although that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really that hard. Once you find out truth, you're going like, oh, did I waste a lot of time? But
Mm-hmm.
but my return was very rewarding, very spiritual, very uplifting, and I was on fire had to do something. And so opportunity on my local Catholic radio station came up, and I offered hey, why don't I do a men's ministry interview show? Yeah, that's how it started. Then I went to from a recorded show that was that went on air later on to fill a time slot. We went to a live show, and I've been doing that live show now for 4 years. It's every Wednesday morning at 7:20 a.m. and I do it Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Time, and then I do that. And then the thing was, it was 12 minutes, and there would be like so much to say on that topic, and you only had 12 minutes to do it. So I kept thinking, gosh, I wish we could do a podcast, man. We just take what we just took and just expand on it,
Yep.
And that's how it got into a podcast. And now I don't know what show this will be, but probably around almost 40 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just did 3 today, and that'll be like 34, 35, 36. And this will probably be 30, maybe 37, 38. Yeah, looks like 37, 38. So anyway, nice. That's so Dave, I really appreciate your time. You got anything else you want to say?
Pat, I just want to say that the time that we did get to spend together in New Haven was awesome. I mean, you definitely stood out among the crowd.
I'm kind of fat, yeah. So
no, but I do appreciate our growing friendship.
Yeah.
There were times that I'll call you during the day, and you always take my phone calls. You're always answering the phone with something sarcastic.
Well, honey, I told you, stop calling me at the office. Not while at work.
But anyways, I just want to, say thank you for, letting me come on your show. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And even though I was sick, I didn't want to miss it.
Even though this is over an hour, I think I can whittle it down to about 20 minutes. No, just yeah. No, actually, I pretty much just sent them to Trinity. She may take this and split it in two, because I think 30 to 40 minutes is enough for one show. Unless we're right on 40, 45, we won't split it, but she'll take it and clean it up a little bit, maybe crop our heads, make, do a little bit of touch up, maybe make us look a little prettier. It's a lot of work for her, but and then she just puts them on air. It's like, I want real, not segmented, not too, reworked or anything like that. I don't redo retakes. It's all live. It's all just as you see it. Because I want real men to talk about real issues and help other men. And as I help other men grow in their faith, and one of the things I've always told, and you should do the same thing, is I tell people to write it down.
Yep.
You can do these video casts and stuff like that, but I think when you take the time to write it out, more stuff comes to mind. And this is mainly for your kids and for your grandkids. You want them to know who you were. And if you don't, I kid you not, within a generation, they won't know who you were. They won't know how to tell stories about you. They don't know, like, may I have a word? I think those are going to be significant little trinkets to help not just this next generation, but generations to come. Because I think these are going to be significant little tidbits of advice and knowledge and wisdom that they can always enjoy and learn from. So when you write down your own story, you're leaving your legacy in your words for them to learn, so they know you when you're no longer here.
I know we got to go, Pat, but a couple of years ago, I had a friend of mine who was terminally ill, and we did a video. He wanted his granddaughter to remember him, and we did a beautiful video of him. So that's another option, that guys should think about is leaving a video legacy for their family.
Either way, but you need to tell your story in your own words with your own heart and feelings, so that the generations that follow you will know something about you.
Absolutely.
So anyway, with that, I would like to say thank you, Dave. And you can go to his castingthe.net website, and all your interviews are on that website.
All my interviews, Father Larry Burrell's homilies are there every week. Eddie Trask is now a part of it. You're going to be a part of that.
Okay.
And Jay Goodman, who is great.
A lot of content is going to be available, not just yours, but a lot of content. And all your past interviews, all your past podcasts will be present, right?
Yep. And yours is coming up in 2 weeks.
And then they can like and subscribe to your website and get the email notification when a new podcast has come out. I
got an email newsletter. Just go right there and sign up. And thank you for remembering.
You're a lot further ahead than I am. I'm just getting into the Zoom meetings on my own. I was always doing the podcast in a studio and had to bring guests in or just myself or whatever worked out. So this is a new start for me as well. So I appreciate your time, and we'll stay in contact. Don't be a stranger.
Yeah. I won't. Anything I can do to help you, man.
All right.
I'm there for you.
You bet. You have a good day. Thank you.
Peace, bro.
God bless.
Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Man Cave, a weekly podcast discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. A production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. To learn more about our ministry, please visit our website, saltandlightradio.com.